Today's Wednesday, February 3rd, 2021, and I want to talk about this verse, Matthew chapter 19, verse 12, and just make two really quick points. Because this isn't news to most of you who are watching this, and I don't want to get sidetracked and start talking about all sorts of things. So I just want to keep my point really quick. One, Jesus talked about intersex conditions, people who are born that way, in utero. The transformation happens in utero, and they're born that way. And Jesus talked about that. For there are some eunuchs which were so born from their mother's womb. So that right there, it's in times past, eunuchs were basically people who didn't have the standard reproduction of they weren't going to have families. So, and because they weren't capable of reproducing, they were trusted among the king's courts, and Jesus here talks about people making themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven. So some people probably made themselves become a eunuch for things like to become chaste, and they want to be pure. I mean, certain monks take different vows of chastity. So I'm just assuming here that when Jesus is talking about this, that there were some people that did become eunuchs because they were like, I'm not gonna live a normal life and go get a wife and family. I'm gonna go join a church and get big up in the clergy. I think that some people probably did choose to become a eunuch in order to do that. And so I guess just I want to get this out of the way. It seems weird that Jesus is bringing this up. Like, why is Jesus talking about eunuchs made in the womb? And you need to go to the verse right before it. So people were talking about putting away the wife. And in Judaism, it's really interesting. Do you guys know about all the strange, they make like contracts? The wife and the husband make a contract before they get married, and it's like a part of the Jewish tradition. They're all about the lawyer stuff. And so Jesus was being asked about divorce, and that's when he starts talking about the eunuchs. I think a lot of times people bring up this verse just totally out of context, and the context is people were talking about giving up their wife. And so part of him talking about the eunuchs is in response to that. His disciples saying to him, if the case of the man be so with his wife, it is not good to marry. These were Jesus's disciples saying, oh, we can't divorce our wife. Well, then nobody should marry. That sucks. I just think that's really strange. That's how people felt about divorce back then too, that you should just be able to get rid of your wife. And so earlier, Jesus actually gets asked this question twice. So when he's talking about this eunuch thing, he's been asked this question twice now. Because the very first time he gets asked about the divorce, he says, well, except for in the case of fornication, unless your wife is going off and cheating on you, you are not to divorce your wife. That was Jesus's answer. And then so the disciples say, well, that sucks. And then Jesus answers again, and that's the context of he's talking about the eunuchs. All men cannot receive the saying, save they to whom it is given. For there are some eunuchs. So that's the context of this verse. It's in response to, well, that sucks that you can't get divorced. And then Jesus says, well, there's eunuchs. So I just think that's like that's the context of what Jesus is saying here. And so to me, I'm just interpreting this is like kind of a response of Jesus saying, well, you don't like the fact that you can't just get a divorce. Well, you can go be a eunuch. I think to me, that's how I interpret this, which is kind of interesting. So that's getting one point of this video out of the way, that the context through which Jesus brought this up was kind of interesting. And then just the second thing is how nonchalant Jesus is talking about, well, there's eunuchs made in the mother's womb, and how that is like the big secret. That is the big secret. The fact that eunuchs can be made in the womb, that a man can come out of the womb with a vagina, that's Swire syndrome, or that a woman can come out of the womb without a properly functioning vagina and it comes out with a penis instead. That's Freemartins. Now, it starts to get a little strange because nowadays, I don't know if it has something to do with the bloodlines have become so corrupted or specialized. I don't know, something about the pickle factory. They've made the Freemartins these days that they can reproduce a free martin, which is a female that gets exposed to T in the uterus and she comes out with a penis, they can go on to reproduce. They will produce sperm. And people will say, that's impossible. That's impossible. How could a woman get a penis and then produce sperm and then impregnate somebody? But that's biology. Biology is more complicated than what a lot of people think. And if you just go to other species, you can see, and I'm not saying that humans are the same thing, of course not, but we're biological systems, just like animals are biological systems. Humans, of course, we have a spiritual aspect, a soul, but the biological unit of a human is obviously similar to other animals, and there's plenty of animals that show us these strange in utero or even out of utero transitioning. And so just for example, there's one, I don't know, I've never seen it with my eyes, but they tell us about things like species that are all female, and somehow they just do some mating ritual and that gets them impregnated. They tell us about, again, so I don't have personal experience, but I do believe that biology is this changeable. And especially when you start getting like fish, there's fish that they start out their life as a female and then they turn into a man later in life. And so just another one, crocodiles, they tell us that the temperature, they lay a bunch of eggs and it depends on the temperature that says whether it comes out as a male or a female. Okay, well, I've blabbed enough about that. I guess just a major point is this used to be common knowledge. This used to be stuff that everybody knew about, but it's been lost to the sands of time, and people just keep it secret, and it's hidden knowledge, and they hide it in plain sight through telling you that it's passé or a fable or some woo-woo mystical thing. They try to pretend like this stuff is not biblical. So just, again, a point I want to make with this video is I see this with flat earth too. What they do is they take a truth, they take a biblical truth like flat earth, and then they try to shift it to being something fantastical or something that only the native tribes have these stories about a flat creation. Only all the native tribes, well, they don't do it with the flood. They can't pretend like the flood isn't biblical. But anyways, so you know how all the different native peoples, they have stories about the flood. You know how about all the different native peoples, they have these flat earth creation stories. But then there's a ton of Christians out there that will try to bend the Bible and say that the Bible's not flat earth, which is just crazy because there's tons and tons of verses in the Bible that say it's flat and unmoving. So just another point is, if you start to talk to people about intersex conditions, rampant intersex conditions, in utero conditions, how you try to explain to people how men can be born with a vagina, they'll think that you're crazy. But look, Jesus talked about that. What do you think that means? When somebody's born a eunuch, that's exactly what it means. It's like a man comes out with a vagina, or a woman is born with a penis and testes that never function properly. That would be considered a eunuch too. Here, we'll get into it. I'm going to end this video with just going through some slides of these types of things. So just like all of these cultures have their own flat earth stories, and trust me, they tell the initiated members, they tell them, oh, you know all of our tribes' ancient stories about the creation stuff and how the sun is eating away the moon and all that. They tell them that's more true to life than any of the NASA garbage. And they feel special and they feel like they're part of a big inside club. And they know. That's why they have things like this. That's why they talk about two-spirit. Because they know the secret. Ray and Mahu, third Polynesian gender. The Mahu, Native Hawaiian, Tahitian cultures are third gender persons with traditional spiritual and social roles. They're eunuchs. Gender in Judaism. So look at all these different terms from Judaism. Zakar is the regular male. Nekava is the regular female, regular, whatever you want to, natural. There's the androgynous. And tum-tum is, a person whose sexual characteristics are indeterminate or obscured. That just reminds me, there's a character in a stupid martial arts children's movie where somebody's name is Tum Tum. A lot of references to these other genders. A lonet, a female who does not develop at puberty, as an infertile. Swire syndrome, also known as Swire syndrome. A saris, a male who does not develop at puberty and or subsequently has their sexual organs removed. So a gelding or a free martin who doesn't develop properly. I think there are so many stories out there of free martins who they just know that they're infertile. So many alleged men out there that, oh, I'm infertile. How do they know that? I just recently saw a Reddit thread about people with fake testes, and there were so many comments. Oh, I only have one ball. Oh, my friend only has one ball. Oh, I dated somebody that had both of his balls were fake. It's a very common thing. People just don't talk about it. They keep it secret. They keep it between them and the people like them. That's what the whole shh is about. They just keep it secret. But it didn't used to be secret. People used to know about all this stuff. People used to know that there were men that wouldn't naturally develop properly. And I don't know if they knew that they had female skeletons. I don't know exactly what they knew. But this stuff is not new. The 8 genders of the Talmud. Institute für Sexual Wissenschaft. Almost looks like witchcraft. It closed in 1933. This is just good stuff that you can look into. Doing magic wand hand. That is doing the magic wand hand sign. Transgenders back in 1922. Nothing new under the sun. And yeah, I'll just keep it at that. The 2 main points. In utero transgenderism, it is spoken about in the Bible by Jesus Christ. So anybody who tries to tell you that that stuff is nonsense, well, I mean, the Bible talks about it. People are born that way. They are born as eunuchs. It's just that today, with modern medicine, alchemy, they abuse hormones, and some of them come out capable of reproducing. A lot more free martins today end up being able to produce sperm. I believe that it's because they get tons of hormone therapy. If they weren't getting hormone therapy, I think a lot of them, they're sorry to get, I mean, it is what it is. I knew many free martins, I don't know, a handful, that were just like, they would talk too much about testes dropping and different, like, that's a big ceremony for people. It's just like, it's too weird. It's like, anyways, I just know that they're getting help from alchemy today. And a lot of these people that can reproduce today, I think that they would be completely infertile if it weren't for abusing the hormones. Anyways, I rambled a little bit, but hopefully some of you got a message out of this, and that's it for this. God bless everyone.